What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I'm going to talk about if Miles Morales is better than Spider-Man 2018. So this is something that I've seen some of you guys have been asking me for. I think it's probably something that's going to be talked about by a larger audience as the days go on, as more and more people beat this game. So let me tell you where I'm at here. I've beaten the game. I'm at like 95, 96% completion. I have to do New Game Plus to platinum it, so I'm so close. And this is, by the way, just when I'm recording this. Hopefully, by the time this video goes up, I'm even closer. New Game Plus will obviously take a little bit of time, but I feel like I've experienced what there is to experience of this game to be able to compare it. And for the record, I beat Spider-Man 2018. I platinumed that game, and I played all 3 DLCs and 100% of them as well. Okay, so I play a lot of Spider-Man, and in fact, I did that recently. I think like right around New Year's, right around January, I actually went back and did all that for Spider-Man. So. And I'll be honest again, when I'm recording this, like right now, 58 seconds in, whatever time this is when you guys are seeing this, I don't even have an answer yet in my head. I think I'm going to try and walk myself there as we go through. Miles is really good. Really good. And I think that, I saw this in reviews, and I think now playing, and I can also say, they really, I think, did a good job of streamlining it, where the game is short. The game is short. We know that, okay? The game's not going to take you all that long to do. But what there is to do in this game is probably the best moments from Spider-Man. Now, they're not copy and paste things. In fact, that's kind of another thing to keep in mind with this game, too, is it's copy and paste with some of the stuff, but it's got its own feel from, and you know, people have said it, like Miles swings differently, okay? And obviously the city is under a Christmas little, coverage, right? Instead of not Christmas for Spider-Man, right? So they made changes. The fighting, a lot of it is relatively the same in terms of the core gameplay mechanics. It's the same, but there's a lot of new additions to it, right? Miles fights completely different. He's got different gadgets. He's got different powers with the Venom, really the Venom, 3 different Venom powers, right? The whole jumping one, the punching, and also the dash one. I mean, he fights differently. The story is obviously completely different, and I think, again, they did a really solid job. Let me try to start getting to where the comparisons come. I would say main story, Spider-Man 2018, I think, is better. I think this one is good. I think there's some good characters. I think it goes, and I don't want to spoil it, so I won't. I think it goes into some nice places and has a lot of emotion, has a lot of tension even to it, you can maybe say. Has some cool nods, or not necessarily Easter eggs, but it has some cool stuff in it, okay? But I don't think it has enough time to breathe. And I feel like that is, from a story perspective, I would say the weakest part of Miles is that it actually is really good. I like the story. I actually like it more than I thought. Remember, going into this game, I'm not the biggest Spider-Man fan on planet Earth. I've covered it quite a bit. I've played it quite a bit. So maybe you can call me like a in the top maybe 10%. But I'm not, I don't cover this game daily. I don't think these games are the greatest things to ever, grace planet Earth, okay? But I was excited for them, and I was expecting a really good product. But playing it is different than looking at it when it's coming out. I mean, you get the product, and you get some really amazing things, and I think they nailed it. I just think from a story point of view, it wasn't given enough time to develop. There are some, and I won't spoil this, but there are 2 reveals in this game when you find out. There's more, but when you find out 2, let's say, major things, they are they present them in the weirdest way possible, where they just kind of tell you, immediately. They don't even give you time to think about who or what, or, whatever the situation is. What is it, or who is it, or whatever. They just tell you. And so I don't like that. I really don't like that, actually. I think that was one of the biggest weaknesses as well. But the story, I say, of Spider-Man 2018, again, to give it, this, I was going to say it's longer. Well, it's because it's a full-length game, right? I think they did a lot of really, really nice things with it. I don't think it's a perfect story. I think that a lot of it was very predictable. I would go so far as to say, maybe that makes people really, really mad. I love that story. I think it's a very, very good story. I do not think it's one of the best stories told in games. I don't think it's one of the best stories told in general. I think it's great. I would go so far as to say great. If I were to give the story a grade, I'd say 8 out of 10. But it's not the greatest thing of all time. With that being said, Miles is close, but it doesn't have the length to really let things simmer. In fact, I would argue that if it was a full-length game, some of the reveals of the game probably would have been stretched out. One final thing with story, and then I'll go to the other parts, is Simon Krager is not a good enough villain. Very, very weak, just not remotely good enough. They use Rhino a couple times to try to pad that over. That his fights are cool, but I just don't think those two characters alone. Obviously, you have the Tinkerer, but we won't go into that too far. But I just don't think he's a strong enough main villain. When it comes to the rest of the stuff, I think, honestly, it's very easy to say Miles is better. I really do. Miles really is more powerful than Peter. It's actually very weird, and it is a issue. It's separate. It's a separate thing. It's a separate video maybe even. But, leading into this game, I think I even talked about it with Evan when he was on this channel. And I said, a thing you got to be careful of is you got to be careful how you do these characters. Because if you make Miles too powerful, then you got to make Peter even more powerful in 2, but then Miles is less powerful. And you either need to establish, like, one is more powerful than the other, or I guess make them even, which has not been done yet. Okay, now it's only been 2 games, but it hasn't been done yet. And so, I guess you could say I'm being negative in that way. I'm kind of being negative to the scope of Spider-Man. When it comes to this game, Miles Morales, he's phenomenal. I have so much fun playing as Miles. He's well acted. There's a lot of really good things about him as a character, but his fighting style is fantastic. I love his gadgets, which are different than Peter's. I mean, you have like the web shooter, but the rest of them are different. And Gravity Well is the same. 2 and 2. He's got 4 gadgets. 2 of them are unique to him. 2 of them are not. And I love them. I love them. The Venom stuff. Oh my God. So good. Now, I have the unfair advantage, I guess you can call it advantage, of playing it on the PS5. Visually, not even fair. The controller, the DualSense, my dear God, if you take anything away from this, don't even take a Spider-Man related thing out of this. Take away that me, Alex, Podcast Now's owner, okay, person here, the DualSense controller is absolutely phenomenal. And it's phenomenal like Astro's Playroom specifically, but Miles, I mean, you can feel it all the time. Swinging in the city not only looks good like on the TV, but you can feel it with the triggers on the DualSense. It makes noises every time you do it. I honestly, right now, sitting here, I cannot imagine playing this on PS4. I truly can't, because I'd be playing with a different controller, and no sir, I will not go back to that. That's really where I'm at. And I know I'm making it something that it's not, but I'm making it, I'm really hyping it up. Maybe you guys don't want to hear that, but it's phenomenal. And that does give it unfair advantages. But in reality, he fights better. He's a more powerful character, I think, which is just flat out. I think the villains, again, like not the main villains, like the characters you're fighting, I think they are very well thought out. I think their fighting styles are pretty cool. They have like the brutes. They have different classes of characters. It's good. It's really well done. I love his camouflage, and being able to camouflage is really awesome. His suits are super good. I mean, Spider-Man suits were amazing as well. Those are, I think, kind of equal out. But the biggest thing to me is this: side missions and crime events are really well done. And the reason they're well done, and I guess like side things in general, not just side missions, but when you go into like bases or whatever it is, if you're looking for like his uncle's like tapes with his father, all those things, I think they're just better because there's less of them. And that's where this game does have an unfair advantage, you could say. If we're competing these two against each other, the reason this has an unfair advantage is because they got to look at Spider-Man and say, okay, what did people like? What did people not like? Miles, I could go on honestly for a long time and say how good this game is. And it's weird because a lot of this game feels super familiar. And I was thinking about making a video of like what 2 needs to improve upon for Miles. And I was having a hard time. I think I may still do the video, but I'm having a hard time coming up with it because I think Miles is just like the original Spider-Man 2018 was foundationally solid. There was so many really good things built into that game that are exactly copied here, okay? It's the other stuff. Again, it's the side missions. The side missions have a bit more variety to them. They are a little bit more in-depth. They don't require you doing the exact same thing over and over. The crimes, they pop up like it's like there's no tomorrow, okay? You can't go more than 5 feet without somebody robbing a place, in the city, okay? But besides that, they're all very, very different. You're not forced to do like 30 crimes in each district, and therefore you're doing like 500 crimes in the entire game. You don't have to do that this time around, at least to get the trophies and stuff, right? It's a lot better. It's a lot better. There's less of them, but what they are like there's more depth. So all the side missions, Finding the tapes for his uncle, I think, was the worst thing. I hated actually matching the sounds, but besides that, but the idea of it was fine. I just didn't like how it was executed. But in general, like going around finding the collectibles, fine. I think they were equally as okay as Spider-Man. But then the side missions of this game, really well done. There were parts to them. There were reoccurring characters. They actually bring back some characters like in story missions, which is really, really cool. So I like it. I think they did a really, really nice job with that. So it's tough. I would say I think Spider-Man, the 2018 game, is probably better overall because of the story and maybe because of the supporting characters, like, funny enough, Miles and MJ and, just any of them, right? Black Cat. The villains of that game were pretty darn good as well. Not necessarily the villain fights, but the villains themselves, like Doc Ock, was really, really good. But the thing is, Miles, I think, gameplay-wise and the experience of doing the missions and the crimes and stuff, that was way better. Way, way, way better than Spider-Man. So they almost equal out. And to be honest with you, because of that gosh darn controller, I would almost take I would say if you had to ask me right now, I would play Miles because I truly, again, you guys may hate me, again, for saying these kind of things, but the controller maybe puts this game over. And that could just be the stupidest thing you've heard all day. You'll have to let me know in the comments if that is the stupidest thing you've heard me say. So let me know what you guys think. If you guys have played Miles, do you think it's better than Spider-Man? Do you think it's worse? Do you think parts of it, like I said, I think it's hard. It's definitely hard to measure them, but I think parts of each of these games are better or worse than the other. So let me know. Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed, bell icon turned on. As you guys have seen, I've kept my promise. I've made these Miles videos almost daily for the last week. Gonna be doing it as much as I can. They may go to every other day, but I definitely do have other Miles videos I want to make, so make sure you guys are watching out for those. Again, if you guys want to support me on Twitter, PodcastNow15, you can follow me there. You can join our Discord server. The link for all of these, by the way, is in the description, and my second channel, Podcast Now Plus, if you guys want to subscribe to that as well, okay? Thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. I hope to see you all on the next video.